When we talk about Lakehouse here, we're talking about the Lakehouse architecture, which was a term originally introduced by Databricks. As far as I know, there's not a trademark on it. This has become an industry standard architectural name for when you've separated storage from compute and you've got structured Parquet files with something like Delta or Iceberg on top of them, providing the metadata for ACID compliance. So we have the capability to write to these Lakehouse tables as well directly from Postgres. So you create a Postgres table and you say replicate to analytics equals true, and you point it at a catalog, an Iceberg catalog, or an object storage with Delta files in it, and we'll replicate all of the changes with transactional consistency into these Iceberg, Delta, Lakehouse tables. We'll do the compaction and the maintenance and everything for you. So we're showing the read path here. And what we're showing actually in the demo that doing this is going to show is we're using Iceberg, which is an open source tool, to create the Iceberg tables and push them to an Iceberg REST catalog that is a hosted Iceberg REST catalog in our environment here, but could just as well be any of the Iceberg REST catalog endpoints provided by vendors, because it's a standard protocol for knowing where tables are and governing who can access them. So S3 tables is an Iceberg REST catalog. Google Big Lake has one. Snowflake Polaris is an Iceberg REST catalog that we interoperate with. So we've got our hosted version here, basically just for simplicity of the demo, but you can take Postgres and you can point at any of these Iceberg REST catalogs and query the tables in them, just like you can do with Spark or Presto or Trino or Star Rocks or whatever other query engine can query Lakehouse tables. So what's unique here is that it's bringing Postgres into the fold and making it interoperable with all these technologies, both open and closed source vendor technologies. So if you're a Databricks customer, for example, like in your question, you can now interoperate with the data that you're managing with Databricks with Postgres. So you can use Databricks to manage your Delta tables, and then you can use Postgres to connect to Unity Catalog and their Iceberg REST compatibility layer and query the tables that are managed by Databricks with Postgres. And vice versa, like you can use Postgres to write to this common layer and then point Databricks at it and query them. If you're an ex-Oracle customer, for example, it really depends on what you're trying to do and what your migration process is like. But for example, you can, if you're coming from Exadata or something like that, we can set up a migration for you where we port you over to a Lakehouse architecture by migrating your Oracle data into Postgres and then replicating it to Lakehouse tables. We also have Warehouse PG, different options for Oracle-shaped workloads. The Lakehouse ecosystem is an open ecosystem, and we're trying to interoperate with all the different technologies there so that customers have a choice of which tools they use during different stages of the data lifecycle. Unlike typical legacy data warehouse architecture, where you're stuck with one proprietary format and closed technology, and you have to sort of use the lowest common denominator of what's possible in each stage, from querying to maintenance to governance. With the Lakehouse ecosystem being open and being built on standard open technologies for the data layer and the metadata layer, it means that you can pick the best tool for the job at each stage of the data lifecycle. So now you have Postgres as an option there, whether you're talking about the query stage or the write stage, depending on what your workload looks like and where you're coming from.